Okay, Ren'Py-to-Itch. Still very excited about this. I made another quick project this morning from scratch just to test it all out. Working great. This video is to show the process of doing it from scratch. We're going to create the project from scratch, the repo from scratch, everything from scratch to show A to Z. So you can use this tech as well to ship your builds real quick and not have to worry about any kind of basically like waiting around for a build to happen. It just happens in the background. It's very nice. So if you want to do that, stay tuned and we'll get right into it. So this is a little graphic I made up here of this dude packaging up some kind of package to send out. This is the game or something in that box going itch.io. And so we've got these steps here that'll let us get right into creating the project. So step one, we're just going to install Ren'Py from scratch just to make sure this is pretty clear. So here we are on the Ren'Py release 8.1 page, and I'm going to use this version here. There's the Windows, there's Mac, there's Linux. We're going to use Linux. If you're using Mac or Windows, it's still the same general workflow here. So we're going to download that and have a look in this folder. This is in my downloads folder, and I'm going to extract it to here, and we'll work out of this folder for the video. And if Windows and Mac, this is the same thing. You extract the package here, and it's going to give you the files you need to run itch.io. I mean, Ren'Py. And there it goes. So that'll take just a moment. While that's happening, let's have a look over here at the next step. So this is install from scratch. Now with Ren'Py, you can really install anywhere on the computer. It doesn't really matter to Ren'Py. So we'll extract it to here, and we've got this folder. So inside the folder we have Ren'Py. So what I'm going to do is load up my code editor. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code for this one, and we're going to start a new window and kind of dig right into this project here. So first thing we want to do is load Ren'Py to make sure it works, right? So I'm going to create a new terminal. And if you're on Windows, this would be the part where you'd go to the Windows Explorer and go find it and double click on renpy.exe or mac.dmg file. Over here, we're going to go into renpy.sh, and it effectively does the same thing. It's going to load up Ren'Py. So for this, we want to go ahead and create a new project. I'm going to load up the checklist on the left so we can just keep an eye on what we're doing. So we've installed this, and now we want to create a new project. In this case, I'm going to call it itch project test. So we'll come over here and create a new project. We'll give it our name, and we'll go with 1924 by 1080. And we'll pick this color, and it's creating a brand new project. So this is a good place to start, just the default project. If you can start with the default project and get that to ship, then you've got yourself a pipeline that you can continue to build stuff on top of it. Okay, so there's a new project. We can launch it and just make sure our project loads. And here we have it. Okay, so the default text is here. Images, this is all as expected, so that worked good. So that's part one there. You get that installed. Then we're going to create a new game on itch.io to hold this project. So we're going to take Ren'Py and put it in the background for a moment and close that folder out. We're going to pop on over to itch.io, and at this point you would log into your account and create and upload a new project. So I'm going to use the same name we had before, itch-project.test. And that's pretty much all you have to set for now. Just go ahead and save that. What this will do is generate a couple things we're going to need to note. So on the instructions over here, I'm going to close that out. We need this information, the name of your account / project slug. And this will be useful for the CI that's going to make your game in these steps over here. So we'll just note this here. So in my case, it was that. In this case, we can come up to the project, and here we are viewing the project. And in this link right here, we got to this by we were on the screen and we went to view page. You want this is your project name, this URL slug right here. So we'll paste that in there, and then you want the name of your itch.io account. So in this case, mine's bunnygun, and it's the part that precedes the .itch.io. So we'll take that, add it to the front here, and put the slash in between them. So you've got the name / project slug. So that's important. We're going to need that. And then you need the API token. This is what you need to make it so your project can talk to Itch. And to get that, go up to your account on the top right, and go to settings. And then at the bottom left-hand side, look for API keys. Click that, and it'll make you authenticate one more time. And so in here, you can generate a new key, or you could use one that already exists. In our case, we'll generate a new one for this video. And we'll go ahead and use that. Ooh, looks like we got two. We'll use this one here. So you hit view. I'm going to double click and copy that. And that'll be the second piece of information to note coming up in a few minutes here. So we did itch, and we got our notes, and we created a token. So the next part is we go to Git, and we're going to create the repo for this project. So here we are on GitHub. I'm logged in under my account. You would log in under your account, and we're going to create a new repo for this project. So for me, I'm going to create it under my bunnygun projects and go to new, and we'll give it the same name here. Not as the API key, of course, but let's keep our naming fairly consistent. So let's go back to our project for a second, and I'm just going to cut and paste my project name right there. There it is. Perfect. And that'll make a good repo name. I'm going to leave this on private and go to create repository. Let's go ahead and grab the checklist and put this on the side of the screen. We can see that we're almost ready to move off of this step 2. Okay, so once you've created a new repo, you have a place for your code to live. We're going to take the game files we just made and push it up to this repo. This is the thing that's going to connect to itch.io soon and conveniently control all of our version control. So we've created the repo. We're going to check that box. And then this gives us a URL down here that we can note. And in our case, I'm going to copy and paste the new repo address we just created over that. There we have it. And check that. So that'll come in handy later. Okay, the second part of setting up the repo is we need to set up some secrets. And these secrets are going to be the 2 pieces of information that we saved from Butler earlier, or we saved from itch.io earlier, that a program called Butler is going to use to connect back to itch.io. So if we click on the settings tab of our repo, this is going to take us into a page on the bottom left-hand side where we can see secrets and variables. Click that, and then look for one that says actions. All right, so once we've clicked actions, there's these tabs down here. It says secrets and variables. Make sure secrets is clicked, and then create new. It says new repository secret, this green button. Click that, and we're going to create some new secrets. So the first one, we can cut and paste that from something. These documentations will be up, or you could just transcribe it if you'd like. I always recommend the cut and paste if you can, just in case. But anyway, the information we need for this is this address that we saved over here. We'll paste that in place and add it. And then one more secret. This is going to be our token. So we'll grab that, paste it, and grab the token that we had here and paste that in place and add that secret. Okay, so those are the 2 secrets. Now we have the information ready for the pipeline to use later. So we've set ourselves up. We're going to check those boxes. And now we're going to go to GitHub and download the Ren'Py-to-Itch file. So Ren'Py-to-Itch is this bridge project that we have. That's going to make it so we can do the shipping to the itch.io. It's this project here. And this link will be in the notes. So if you go here, it's your choice if you want to use Git. I'm going to show how to just download the projects like this with the zip file. And we'll open up the zip file. And in here, you should see a folder that's called .github. Now .github contains the file we need to run the pipeline. And in this case, we just need to bring this folder into our game folder project. So over here, I'm gonna have this open the game folder project in another window. Go back to the downloads Ren'Py folder, and we'll go into the project that we just made here. Let's see here. Go back down to here and open the project game folder. Here we go. All right, so the game folder is what we're looking for. And in the game folder, so itch.io projects have a hierarchy of, there's the game folder, and then there's a folder inside of the game folder called game, which is also a folder, which I was confused at for a while. What we want to do is create a copy of that file we downloaded in the root level of the game folder. So just to double clarify this, because I find it confusing, here's the itch.io directory, the Ren'Py directory, and there's the project we just created, so the base level folder. Once we have that, we can copy files into this. And so in this case, we're going to copy in that file we just downloaded, which is buried under a few windows here. There it is. Okay, so we drag and drop that in. So inside of this, we now have this one command. It's an action command file. So this does the work of taking things and shipping them off to itch.io. So this is a good file to have in there to make this work. So once we have that in place, we'll go ahead and double check our checklist, and we are in good shape to move on to the next section. So many windows, so little time. Here we go. All right, we'll check that. And then we've added this. Also, there's an option to add the git ignore. Now, if your project doesn't have a git ignore file in it already, I would recommend using this file because it discludes a lot of stuff that is pretty convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that file. It's this git ignore file here. It's in the zip file that we downloaded earlier. We could do it that way as well. We'll go into this folder, and we're going to grab this git.ignore file right there. So let's go ahead and move this into our project base folder. This is going to be on the same level as the file for GitHub we just connected, or copied in rather. There we go. Okay, so now we're set up pretty nice here. We've got our pipeline file, this .github, and then we've got our .gitignore file. So now we can take the repo that we created over here in GitHub and pull it locally. So let's go back to this, and we'll go to itch project test. And it says at this point, since it's a brand new repo, there's nothing in it, it suggests that we can create a repo from the command line. So we'll copy this block of code here, go back to Visual Studio, and we're going to run that the way it suggests, because that's going to create pretty much what we're looking for. And that'll work out well. So let's go ahead and close that for just a moment. And we're going to load up Visual Studio Code. Here we go. Now we are in the Ren'Py directory now. I'm going to load this one from the downloads folder that we were just working in. There we go. And okay, so we've got all of our stuff right here. And we can see that this is actually in the documents folder. So let me jump over there real quick. And from the documents folder, we've got our itch project. Once we go into the Ren'Py folder, there we go. Okay, so now we're all lined up, and now we can create a repo. So just to recap, we've got our commands here. We're going to copy that, and we're going to drop that into the prompt. And what this has done is created the repo locally, and it's added a main branch. I'm also going to do git add all, and this is going to add the rest of the files that command did not get. And we're going to go ahead and git push origin main to take those files and push them up to Git. So we'll give that just a second. There's not much in this project, so it goes fairly quick. And we reload this over here. And what we have is the basic project structure. So this is a lot of the work with setting up the repo. We can go ahead and click some of these boxes here. So we've done the local part where we pushed a new game to the GitHub repo on the main branch. That's what happened right here. This is our main branch. We've got our project up, so we can check that box. Run the code, check in the latest changes, push to the main branch. The next step is push the new game to the GitHub repo on the development branch. And this is how you trigger the process of building and pushing to itch.io works when you're using this Ren'Py-to-Itch software. It's waiting for certain branches to be checked in. So if we do git checkout-b, and this is going to create a new branch based off the current branch that we're on. We'll call it develop. That creates a brand new branch, and we'll do git push origin develop. So that file we had earlier that's sitting in the repo under the GitHub folder, this is the instructions as to what happens when a build hits. And so this is looking for the development branch, and this little icon right here means that an action's running in the background. It knows we pushed some code, now it's reacting to it. It'll run these instructions here, and these instructions say to it, build it for a few different platforms. Go ahead and build it for Mac, build it for Linux, build it for Windows, and then also build the HTML5 version of it, the progressive web app version of it. This is the Ren'Py 8.1, the new version of it. Build that, and it'll take all of those and send those off to your itch.io, and it knows how to get there based on the secrets that we gave it earlier over here. So if we click this tiny dot right here, you can see that some things are working over there, and it's running. And if you click details, it'll bring you to this screen, which will show you a lot of action is going down. This is line 3000 of zipping up the Mac version of the project. Really, this is something you're not going to have to dig into too much when things are running smooth. This is just kind of feedback, though, although it's good to know this exists so you can find it later. I'm going to just go ahead and show you one other way to get to this while we're here. Once you're in your repo, look for the Actions tab and click Actions. And you can see this running here with this little dot going around in circles. So we'll click on that, and that brings up the details of the action that's running. So in this case, this is doing good. It looks like it's about done. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here and see what this output looks like. Yeah, this is finished, and so you can look at the bottom and kind of verify it. You can see, for example, Butler, and that's the program that pushes things to itch.io. You can see the Linux development build over here. You can see Mac in some of this output. You can see Windows. So this looks like it was successful. It also tell you, usually it throws a red X if it's not successful. It'll let you know most of the time. So this looks good. The green check mark is also good. And to verify that all that works, we can now go back to itch.io. And this is the game page we created. We're going to hit edit game to go back to the page for the backend editor and scroll down a bit, and you should see some builds appear. So here's our web build, Windows build. We've got Linux over here, and there's the Mac build. While we're in here, we're going to check some boxes, but we're going to do some work. We've pushed the game. We did the checkout process. We watched the action run. And then we watched and verified that the builds have uploaded by looking at this screen. Optionally, we want to enable HTML5 at this point. And so if I save this and we go to view page, you'll see that while there is a web build for it, it's not actually up here loading. And so to enable that so it loads on the page, go back to your editor page here, and then scroll down to the kind of project section and change this to HTML. And then go down to the web build itself here, and I'll say web in it, and look for this file will be played, where'd it go? This file will be played in the browser. So you want to check that box. Scroll down a little bit further, and two more things to point out is here you can change the default dimensions of the project. And this button here, full screen button, will make it so your user can click a full screen icon to make it full dimension on the monitor. So that's a nice feature there. So with that set up, we'll hit save and then view it. And at this point, we can see it'll say the game is now loading for the first time. This game's very light, so it loads very fast. And you have this run game icon here. So if the player presses this, notice this full screen icon appears at the bottom. This loading screen appears as well. If you press this, it'll make the game full screen. And so if you were to press escape, it goes out of it again. So that's a nice feature to enable for sure for players. From there, it's pretty much business as usual. I want to also point out that I'm using Brave browser, and you see some of this stuff popping up at the top here. If you're using Brave browser, just make sure that you turn off the shields. Put the shields down for this to make it run as best as it can. But this project's looking good. And so those messages were that the image file is not attached in here, I believe, because it doesn't have one by default. But this all looks good. And so with that done, and I mentioned the idea that, yeah, sometimes you'll see like an error pop up if you leave on Brave browsers like aggressive blocking, which works great in most cases. But for this case, you want to turn off the shields for the Ren'Py games, and they run pretty smooth that way. And it seems to run no issues on Firefox, Chrome, and Safari looks good too. So, yep. So that's how you do this whole loop. You basically go through and you gotta, from the top, install Ren'Py 8.1. That's what I recommend for this. And then go in, create your itch.io page, create your GitHub, configure your GitHub, go back to your local, set up the repo, configure the repo with the the Ren'Py-to-Itch .github file. Make sure that's in there. And then you're good to go after that, because that file is going to do most of the work. And then you can ship it up. And make sure you check it into one of the branches. Development is a good one to go with. You could also go with preview or live. And just to point out one more time that if you want to tweak any of this stuff from a development perspective, you're welcome to go in there and edit the workflows file, and then edit the build and deploy file. It's the only real file you can mess with in this deployment. This is where the branches react, and I know certain people have different branching strategies. So if you don't want it to build on develop, you could change this to anything you want. You know, that would be fine. This would be fine, and that would be fine. So except for this special character, maybe don't do special characters. But plain text branch names that normally work are going to work, because this will do some variable replacement stuff. The other thing I can suggest to people, if you want to tweak what builds, you've got two options at the bottom here. If you want to say, like, you don't want Windows to build, you can comment that out by putting that bash in front of it. And then it'll skip making these builds. Depends what's relevant to you. If you want to get rid of the web build for some reason, you can come up to this line where it says web, and then comment out that line. That would do it. If you were to save that and push that up, then it wouldn't build those things. The other option you have too, if you don't want to play with code and you want to hide stuff, would be to go into the edit game for the game, and then find the build and click hide this file and prevent it from being downloaded. You know, it'll still build it in the background. It'll take a little, you know, whatever 20 seconds it takes to build your game. Depends on the side of the game, I guess. But in this way, you don't have to play with the code at all, and you can still hide a build if you'd like. So there's two options there for you. Okay, that's the whole process, A to Z. I hope that helps you out, because this is something I'm really enjoying using myself, and it really makes it so me and like my buddy can program with each other, and we can both submit code, merge it, and then make a build. And then our other buddy who does sound, for example, can see that come up quick, and he can take sound and merge it, and it gives a lot of good feedback quickly. And then players enjoy it too, because they're getting, you know, more content faster. All right, so thanks for watching the video. See ya.